I thought I was helping my best friend plan her dream wedding until I found the real guest list. I was folding napkins into perfect swans when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check the venue's storage room, third shelf, blue binder. You need to see this before tomorrow. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something about the urgency, the specificity, made me pause mid-fold. That text saved me from walking into the most humiliating moment of my life. The napkin swan crumpled in my hands as I stared at the message. Outside, the November rain drummed against the windows of Meredith's apartment, where I'd been camped out for the past 3 weeks, transforming her living room into wedding command central. Fabric samples draped every surface. Vendor contracts were paper-clipped to the walls like some deranged art installation. My laptop balanced precariously on a stack of bridal magazines, open to 17 different tabs about centerpiece arrangements. This was supposed to be the final night before Meredith's wedding. Tomorrow she'd marry James in what she'd called the most perfect day of my entire life, approximately 400 times in the past 6 months. And I was her maid of honor, her wedding planner, her emotional support system, and apparently her full-time unpaid labor force. "Who's texting you?" Meredith called from the kitchen, where she was stress-eating her third bowl of cereal. The bride-to-be diet, she'd joked, though nothing about her tone sounded like joking anymore. "Spam," I said automatically, still staring at the screen. "Probably." "Well, ignore it. We have to finish these napkins tonight, or the tables will look naked tomorrow." She appeared in the doorway, spoon in hand, looking more frazzled than radiant. "And can you double-check the seating chart again? I keep thinking we missed someone." The seating chart. I'd redone it 6 times in the past week because Meredith kept remembering distant relatives and college acquaintances who simply had to be included. The guest list had swollen from an intimate 80 people to 150, then somehow contracted back to 90 without any clear explanation of who'd been cut or why. "Already done," I said, holding up the tablet where I'd color-coded every table. Tables 1 through 8, perfectly balanced. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You're amazing, Emma. I don't know what I'd do without you." I'd heard that phrase so many times over the past year that it had lost all meaning. What started as gratitude had morphed into expectation, then dependency, then something that felt dangerously close to entitlement, but I told myself it was temporary. After the wedding, things would go back to normal. Meredith would return to being my best friend instead of my most demanding client. We'd met in college, freshman year, assigned as roommates by some algorithmic stroke of luck. She was everything I wasn't: confident, spontaneous, effortlessly social. I was the one who made color-coded study schedules and kept spare phone chargers for everyone. It worked. She pulled me out of my shell. I kept her organized. For 12 years, we'd maintained that dynamic. She'd call when her life was chaos, and I'd show up with solutions. But this wedding had pushed our friendship into uncharted territory. It started innocently enough. "Emma, you're so good at planning. Would you mind helping me with a few things?" A few things became everything. Venue hunting, vendor negotiations, dress shopping, menu tastings, flower arrangements, guest management, and somehow, somewhere along the way, I'd become the unpaid coordinator for a $40,000 event. The worst part wasn't the work. It was how invisible I'd become in the process. At vendor meetings, people assumed I was the wedding planner, not the friend. Meredith never corrected them. She'd introduced me to her future in-laws as Emma, my lifesaver, not Emma, my best friend. Even James had started treating me like hired help, texting me directly about wedding details instead of talking to his own fiancée. "I'm going to grab some air," I said, needing space to think about the mysterious text. "Don't be long," Meredith called. "We still have programs to fold." Outside, the rain had softened to a drizzle. I walked 3 blocks to the venue, a restored Victorian mansion that Meredith had fallen in love with after I'd found it, booked the tour, and negotiated the price down by 15%. The night manager, Dave, recognized me immediately. "Hey, Emma, checking on something for tomorrow? Just need to grab something from storage." He handed me the key without question. Over the past month, I'd been in and out of this place more than the actual staff. The storage room smelled like dust and old flowers. 3rd shelf, blue binder. My hands shook as I pulled it down. Inside were documents I'd never seen before. Contracts, vendor agreements, payment schedules. But it was the guest list that made my blood turn to ice water. 2 columns. Invited and actual. The invited list had 90 names, exactly what I'd been working with. The actual list had 45. Half the people I'd been planning for weren't really coming, but that wasn't the worst part. My name wasn't on either list. I wasn't invited to my best friend's wedding. The wedding I'd planned. The wedding where I was supposed to be maid of honor. I flipped through the pages, certain I'd misunderstood. There had to be an explanation. But there it was, in Meredith's handwriting. "Emma, tell her food poisoning?" Make it believable. She'll understand later. My chest constricted. I couldn't breathe properly. The storage room suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in. I sat down hard on a box of centerpieces I'd personally assembled, fighting the wave of nausea rolling through me. Food poisoning. She was planning to fake sick and uninvite me to my own best friend's wedding. The wedding I'd sacrificed my savings, my vacation time, my social life, and apparently my dignity to create. But why? I kept reading. There were notes in the margins, comments I'd never seen before. Keep Emma busy with details so she doesn't ask questions. Make sure she feels needed. She works harder when she thinks she's helping. Jay thinks she's getting too attached. Easier to cut her out after everything's done. Jay James. The groom thought I was getting too attached? Attached to what? His fiancée? His wedding? The friendship I'd been investing in for over a decade? My phone buzzed. Meredith texting from 3 blocks away. "Where are you? These programs won't fold themselves." I stared at the message, then at the binder in my lap. 12 years of friendship reduced to a work order. Show up, shut up, and disappear when convenient. I took pictures of every page with my phone. Not because I had a plan, but because I needed proof that this was real, that I wasn't losing my mind. The walk back to her apartment felt like a funeral march. With every step, I replayed moments from the past year. The late nights I'd spent researching venues while she went on dates with James. The weekends I'd sacrificed to attend vendor meetings she couldn't be bothered with. The way she'd started saying "we" when talking about wedding decisions, but the "we" never included me in any meaningful way. I'd thought I was being a good friend. I'd thought this was what friendship looked like. Showing up, putting her needs first, making her happiness my priority. Instead, I'd been performing unpaid labor with a smile, and the moment my usefulness expired, I'd be discarded like a used napkin. Meredith was back on the couch when I returned, surrounded by wedding programs and a glue stick. "There you are," I started without you, only about 50 more to go. I sat down beside her, picked up a program, and started folding. My hands moved automatically while my mind raced. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately, to throw the evidence in her face and demand an explanation. But a larger part of me was curious to see how this would play out. How exactly was she planning to execute this betrayal? So, I said carefully, final head count is 90, right? Mm-hmm. She didn't look up from her folding. And you're feeling okay? Not nervous or sick or anything? Just tired. All this planning has been exhausting. She paused. But so worth it. Tomorrow's going to be perfect. Perfect. For her, maybe. We folded programs in silence for 20 minutes. Each crease felt like a small act of rebellion, a quiet fuck you to the person who'd been using me without my knowledge. I was helping her prepare for the event I'd been secretly uninvited from, and she had no idea I knew. Emma, she said eventually, I need to tell you something. Here it comes, I thought. The fake food poisoning story. What's up? She set down her program and turned to face me. Her expression was perfectly crafted. Apologetic, but not too guilty. Disappointed, but not devastated. I'm starting to feel really queasy. Like, really not good. Oh no, I said, matching her energy. That's terrible timing. I know, right? The night before my wedding, she pressed her hand to her stomach dramatically. I'm probably just nervous, but what if it's food poisoning? What if I'm sick tomorrow? I watched her performance with newfound clarity. She was good at this. 12 years of friendship had taught her exactly how to manipulate my natural instinct to help. I'm sure you'll be fine, I said. Maybe just try to get some rest. But what if I'm not? What if I'm too sick to do anything tomorrow? Anything, like attend her own wedding, or more specifically, like having her maid of honor attend her wedding. Don't think like that, I said soothingly. You're going to be beautiful and radiant, and everything will be perfect. She smiled, but I caught something calculating in her eyes. You're right, I'm probably overthinking. A pause. Although if I do get sicker, you might have to step back from maid of honor duties, just in case I'm contagious. There it was. Not even creative, really. Just a transparent lie wrapped in fake concern. Of course, I said. Whatever you need. The relief on her face was unmistakable. She thought she'd successfully planted the seed of my own elimination. We finished the programs around midnight. Meredith kept touching her stomach and making small groaning sounds, building her case for tomorrow's fictional illness. I played along, expressing appropriate concern and offering remedies I knew she wouldn't take. I should probably head home, I said finally. Let you get some rest. Actually, she said, would you mind staying over? Just in case I need help during the night? In case she needed help perfecting her sick act, more likely. Sure. I spent the night on her couch, staring at the ceiling and planning my next move. By morning, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Meredith emerged from her bedroom at 8 a.m., looking perfectly healthy but committed to her performance. Oh God, Emma, I feel awful. Like really, really terrible. Poor thing, I said, already dressed and holding a cup of tea. I was worried about this. What do you mean? Well, you've been so stressed about the wedding, and stress can really mess with your immune system. Plus, you've barely been eating real food, just cereal and wedding cake samples. She nodded eagerly, like I was providing her with better ammunition for her lie. The thing is, I continued, I think you might be more than just nervous sick. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot I'd prepared. I looked up your symptoms online: nausea, stomach pain, exhaustion. Have you been around anyone with stomach flu recently? Her face went pale. This wasn't part of her script. I don't think so. Because if you have stomach flu, you could be contagious for days. And if you expose your guests, I shook my head gravely. Food poisoning is one thing, but if you actually give stomach flu to 90 people at your wedding, I could see her mind racing. She'd planned to fake sick to uninvite me, but now I was suggesting she might be actually sick in a way that could ruin her entire wedding. I can't cancel my wedding, she said. Oh, you don't have to cancel, but you might need to modify some things. Keep your distance from people, maybe have the ceremony, but skip the reception, or at least warn people about potential exposure. She looked genuinely panicked now. That would ruin everything. Not everything, I said gently. The important part is marrying James, right? Everything else is just party planning. Just party planning. The party I'd spent months planning for free. I need to call my mom, she said, grabbing her phone. While she was in the bedroom having a frantic conversation with her mother, I made my own calls. First to the photographer, then the florist, then the caterer. Not to cancel anything, but to confirm final details and make sure they had my contact information as the day of coordinator. Because that's what I was, wasn't it? The coordinator who'd been systematically written out of her own work. Meredith emerged from her bedroom looking defeated. My mom thinks I should tough it out. She says people will understand if I'm not feeling well. What did you tell her? That I might have food poisoning. That I might be too sick to enjoy things fully. Too sick to enjoy her own wedding, but not too sick to actually have it. Interesting compromise. Well, I said, I'll be there to help with whatever you need. Actually, she said, avoiding eye contact, my mom thinks it might be better if you stayed away today, just in case you're the one who got me sick. We ate the same takeout last night, remember? I remembered. We'd shared Thai food and she'd seemed perfectly fine, but now I was supposedly the source of her fictional illness. That makes sense, I said. I wouldn't want to make things worse. The relief on her face was almost insulting. You understand, right? It's nothing personal. Nothing personal. 12 years of friendship dismissed as nothing personal. Of course. I'll just go home and rest up. Maybe I'm fighting off the same bug. Exactly. She was practically glowing now. Take care of yourself. I'll call you later and tell you how everything went. Sure, she would. I gathered my things, including the tablet with all the wedding information, the vendor contact list, and the master timeline I'd created. Meredith didn't ask for any of it back. Why would she? In her mind, the hard part was over. The wedding would run itself. Feel better, I said at the door, giving her a hug that felt like saying goodbye to more than just a single day. Thank you for understanding, she said. You're such a good friend. Such a good friend, right up until the moment I stopped being useful. I drove to the venue and spent the morning making adjustments, small ones mostly, the kind of changes that would only be noticeable to someone who'd been intimately involved in the planning. I moved the gift table from the easily accessible spot near the entrance to a corner where it would be overlooked by most guests. I adjusted the music playlist to remove the carefully curated acoustic covers Meredith had spent weeks selecting, replacing them with the venue's generic classical collection. I changed the signature cocktail from the custom creation we'd developed with the bartender to standard house drinks. Most importantly, I visited each vendor and introduced myself as the day of coordinator who would be handling all wedding-related communication. Not the maid of honor, not the best friend, but the coordinator, the professional who'd been hired to ensure everything ran smoothly. Is the bride feeling better? Asked the florist, a woman named Carol who I'd spoken with dozens of times over the past month. She's managing, I said. Food poisoning, you know. She might not be very present today. That's why it's important that all communication goes through me. Carol nodded sympathetically. Poor thing. Good thing she has you to handle everything. Good thing indeed. At 2 p.m., I positioned myself in the venue's back office, where I had a clear view of the arriving guests through the window. Meredith's extended family, looking confused about the reduced reception setup. James's college friends checking their phones and whispering among themselves. The photographer, wandering around looking for the bride who was supposed to be getting ready by now. At 2:30, my phone rang. Meredith, as expected. Emma, I need help. Nothing is working right. The flowers are wrong, the music is weird, and James says the bar doesn't have our signature drinks. Oh no, I said. That's terrible. What happened? I don't know. Everything was planned perfectly. You planned everything perfectly, but it's all wrong now. Where are you? In the bridal suite. I'm supposed to be getting my hair done, but the stylist is late, and my dress isn't hanging right, and I think I might actually throw up. Real panic this time, not the performed version from this morning. Take a deep breath, I said. I'm sure it's just pre-wedding jitters making everything seem worse than it is. Can you come? Please? I know I said to stay away, but I need you. I can't do this without you. There it was, the admission I'd been waiting for. She couldn't do this without me. Not the wedding, not the day, not any of it. But she'd been perfectly willing to try until reality crashed into her fantasy. I don't know, I said. I'm still not feeling great and you were worried about contagion. I don't care about that anymore. I need you here. You're my maid of honor. You're my best friend. Please. Best friend. Interesting how that title reappeared when she needed something. Okay, I said. I'll be right there. I walked through the venue slowly, observing the chaos I'd carefully orchestrated. Guests milling around with no clear direction. Vendors looking for someone in charge. The general confusion that occurs when an event has been meticulously planned but is missing its coordinator. Meredith's bridal suite was a disaster. Makeup scattered across every surface, hair tools plugged in but abandoned, her dress hanging at an odd angle that would definitely wrinkle the train. She was sitting in the middle of it all, still in her bathrobe, looking like she might actually be sick this time. Emma, thank God, everything is falling apart. What's wrong exactly? Everything, she gestured wildly. The hairstylist didn't show up, the flowers are the wrong color, the music is all wrong. James is freaking out because his groomsmen don't know where to go. My mom is having a meltdown because the seating chart doesn't match what she expected. Nothing is the way we planned it. We planned it. Interesting use of the plural, considering I'd been doing the singular planning. Okay, I said calmly. Let's solve this one problem at a time. For the next hour, I fixed everything. I called in favors, made adjustments, and restored the wedding to its intended perfection. Not because I wanted to save Meredith's day, but because I wanted her to understand exactly what she'd almost thrown away. By 4 p.m., everything was perfect again. The flowers were arranged properly, the music was playing our carefully curated playlist, the bar was serving the signature cocktails. Meredith looked radiant in her properly hung dress, her hair styled by the backup artist I'd quietly arranged weeks ago, just in case. I don't know how you do it, she said, looking at herself in the mirror. You just fix everything. That's what friends do, I said. She turned to face me. Emma, I owe you an apology. This morning when I said you couldn't come, I was just panicked and not thinking clearly. I'm so glad you're here. Are you? I asked. Of course. You're my maid of honor. This wouldn't be the same without you. I nodded slowly. Speaking of which, I need to ask you about something. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken in the storage room. Her face went white. Where did you get this? Someone sent me a text yesterday. Told me to look in the venue's storage room. I scrolled through the images. Interesting reading, especially the part about telling me you had food poisoning so I wouldn't come to your wedding. She sat down heavily on the velvet chair, her perfect makeup suddenly looking like a mask. Emma, I can explain? Please do. It wasn't supposed to be mean. It was just complicated. Complicated how? She stared at her hands. James felt like you were too involved. Like this was becoming more about you planning the perfect wedding than about us getting married. Too involved in the wedding you asked me to plan. I know how it sounds. Do you? Because it sounds like your fiancé decided I was a problem, and instead of talking to me about it, you decided to secretly uninvite me from my own best friend's wedding. It wasn't like that. What was it like then? She was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. James said it would be easier if we just transitioned away from you after the wedding, that we needed to start our marriage without complications. Complications, like having a best friend. Like having someone who... She stopped herself. Who what, Meredith? Who knew me before him? Who remembered who I used to be before we were together? And there it was, the real truth. This wasn't about me being too involved in the wedding. This was about James wanting to erase Meredith's history and her being willing to let him. So the plan was to use me to plan your wedding, then disappear me from your life. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I thought maybe we could still be friends, just different, less involved. Less involved, like not invited to your wedding involved? She started crying, and for a moment, I felt the old instinct to comfort her. But I remembered the guest list, the notes in the margins, the months of unpaid labor. Meredith, I said gently, do you know how much money I spent on this wedding? She looked up, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Between the engagement party I threw you, the bridal shower, the bachelorette weekend, this dress, and all the time I took off work to handle vendor meetings, about $4,000, and that's not counting the hundreds of hours I've put in. I didn't ask you to spend that much. You didn't ask me not to either. You just let me keep giving and giving until I had nothing left to give, and then you were going to throw me away. Emma, please, you have to understand. I do understand. I understand that you've been using me for months. I understand that your fiancé sees me as a threat to his control over you. And I understand that you were willing to betray 12 years of friendship rather than stand up to him. She was crying harder now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to fix this for her, just clarity. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to go get married. You're going to have your perfect wedding that I planned for you. And then you're going to pay me back every cent I spent making your dreams come true. Emma, $4,000, Meredith, plus my hourly rate for wedding coordination. Let's call it minimum wage, shall we? $15 an hour times about 200 hours. That's another $3,000. Her face went pale. $7,000? That's what friendship costs, apparently. At least that's what mine cost you. I don't have $7,000. Then you'll have to figure it out. You and James can start your marriage with a nice big debt to remember me by. I stood up and smoothed down my bridesmaid dress. I'm going to go take my place as your maid of honor now. I'm going to smile for photos and give a speech about what a wonderful friend you are. I'm going to help you have the perfect wedding day you wanted. And then? And then I'm done. With you, with this friendship, with pretending that any of this was ever real. She grabbed my hand. Please don't do this. We can work it out. I can talk to James, make him understand. I pulled my hand away. The time for talking was before you decided to uninvite me from your wedding. The time for working it out was before you wrote, "Make it believable," next to plans to lie to my face. Emma, please, you're my best friend. No, I said, looking at her directly. I was your unpaid employee. There's a difference. I walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Meredith? The person who texted me yesterday? It was Dave, the night manager. Turns out he's friends with my cousin Alex, who you cut from the guest list last minute. Dave thought I should know what kind of person I was working so hard for. Her mouth fell open. Enjoy your perfect wedding, I said. It's the last thing I'll ever give you. The ceremony was beautiful. The reception was flawless. I smiled, I gave my speech. I caught the bouquet. I played the role of the perfect maid of honor right up until the moment I walked out the door. 3 months later, Meredith sent me a check for $7,000 along with a 2-page letter explaining how sorry she was, how she'd realized what she'd lost, how she wanted to make things right. I deposited the check and threw the letter away unread. 6 months after that, I heard through mutual acquaintances that she and James were having problems. Apparently, once he'd successfully isolated her from her support system, he'd started working on controlling other aspects of her life. Who could have seen that coming? A year later, she called me. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail saying she was getting divorced, that she'd been wrong about everything, that she needed her best friend back. I deleted the message without listening to the whole thing. Because here's what I learned from planning Meredith's perfect wedding. Sometimes the most satisfying revenge is simply refusing to be someone's safety net when their choices finally catch up with them. I kept the bridesmaid dress, though. It's hanging in my closet as a reminder that I'm worth more than being someone's unpaid employee, more than being discarded when I become inconvenient, more than being anyone's disposable friend. These days, when people ask me to help plan their weddings, I quote them my professional rates up front, and I've never worked for free again. Some might say I went too far, demanding payment for what should have been acts of friendship. Others might say I didn't go far enough, that I should have exposed her publicly or ruined her perfect day. But I think I did exactly what needed to be done. I gave her exactly what she asked for, a perfect wedding and a friendship-free future. And I gave myself something even more valuable, the knowledge that I'm worth more than someone who would use me and throw me away. What do you think? Did I handle it right, or should I have done something different? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.